Welcome to the Biotech Startups Podcast by Exceeder. Join us as we speak with first-time founders, serial entrepreneurs, and experienced investors about the challenges and triumphs of running a biotech startup, from pre-seed to IPO, with your host, John Chou. In our last episode, Dr. Chou shared how she became employee number one at a biosimilar startup, walked alone into an FDA meeting with 32 agents, and later joined Bayer to lead global biotech operations as the first Asian woman in such a role. If you missed it, check out part 3. In part 4, Dr. Chou unpacks leaving Bayer despite a promotion, why former Genentech executives recruited her to evaluate a struggling company's pipeline, and how she identified PSG1 as a mechanism that could finally address what Humira couldn't do after 20 years. She also breaks down Ultrabio's near bankruptcy within 4 months, the dramatic 30-day fundraising turnaround, and how she raised a record-breaking $225 million Series B by competing with Big Pharma in ulcerative colitis. She reflects on mentors like Professor Martha Constantine Payton and Nobel laureate Bob Horvitz, who told her, "You are good," when she was ready to quit, and why she refuses to answer what advice she'd give her 21-year-old self.
And as you now have you put in your resignation, and can you just talk a little bit about like the origin of Ultrabio and the mission and focus and how it came to be?
Yeah, it's again, I like the way you asked this question because it was a little bit connected, right? So someone called me at a time when knowing I got promoted, because the people insider knowing this, and then praised me about probably at that time was the biggest, I guess, people with this Chinese heterogeneity, the biggest role ever. You run such a huge organization and the responsibility, the biggest one. And I was, again, already have this thought as I just shared with you. And I feel I don't deserve that title. And then was this whole phone call about this whole congratulation and things like that. It was humbly, and I share with this person about, hey, I hate to tell you this because I don't know how long I will last on that. And I like it. I feel that is very inspirational. There's nothing wrong. It's not like you join a mafia or something.
Yeah.
But I'd say, but I question this, and I'm wondering, is that what I want to be? So something as I shared a moment ago. And then this person got this idea, knowing I have that little hesitation there, right? So I wasn't looking for positions, things like that. And this was getting to the former Genentech executive when they got approached by the predecessor company of Ultrabio. So this has nothing to do with Genentech. This group of people, so Pat Yan, Steve Juziga, Sean Bohan, people approach them, the investor of the predecessor company, say, hey, if you guys can make a difference, because you guys are pretty good at, the antibody field and the novel antibody. And the predecessor company struggle on very novel science, super innovative. Well, I wouldn't use that word, super creative, because I think they were short of innovate for product. So that's why I say my innovation is very specific, defined from you got to be innovate for product. Other things are all discovery or creative. So they were stuck there, not be able to move on to this. So basically, so then they approached me to say, hey, Judy, can you just help us take a look? You see, is there any potential of this? Because they are thinking about take over the company, because they all left Genentech and retire and something in between of a job and something like that. So I took a look. I think out of the whole pipeline of the predecessor company, this particular technology now the Ultrabio has, it's very unique. I say, and I compare certain data. I say, this, I'm being in immunology. We probably won't have time to talk about, so throughout my course of career is more focused on oncology and launch many oncology drugs. But my first job was Humira, right? So I know that field very well and still follow through. It probably doesn't surprise you. And and I see, hey, this data looks really better than even our old days looking at immunological drug, and Humira can be so successful. Why not this? And also, not to mention, I know what Humira can do. I also know what Humira cannot do. So I feel there's still a medical need. This is a luxury of my life, I would say. Most of people
Kind of
like,
like the
hey,
biosimilar. It's kind of like the biosimilar. You're just like, I know it's like this circle here.
there's something you
I
cannot
know,
address, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I can play outside. It's kind of like Humira. Like I know where Humira plays, but I
Yeah,
also know
but
where it
I
doesn't.
think in this case also, because Humira is anti-TNF, anti-TNF have been a very effective drug. But I consider I'm very lucky about, like many novel target when we talk about in the career. And I wish you also be able to do what I do. Like then you say, oh, this is great. This is going to be then years later, you can kind of brag about, I was the first, like I have this luxury say that I was the first one of the first one work on this anti-TNF. But I think the further luxury, or maybe what I really have, is then after 20 years, right? You know what TNF cannot address. You know how many patients couldn't benefit from this mechanism. You don't know what's the solution. As I say, in biotech, the question is always very obvious, different from high tech, right? Because that question comes from whatever the special people putting together, but more about, and then how are we going to address that? So I feel this technology now I'm working on may actually come from that angle, totally different angle, and to be able to address that. So I told them, like, this is a very cool stuff. So I endorse this particular one. The other, I don't think you guys should do this. Others, they got excited, not because of me saying this, they all have the joint same vision and same idea about, hey, novel targeting immunology make a difference. They decide to form the company, take over and transform, but they need a CEO. So probably fast forward, then they persuade me like, why don't you just join us being the CEO? And so I have to say 50% about the science, 50% because of that. Because I feel like that positive experience at Genentech was so good, right? And this is probably particular in your podcast because you bother take the time to talk through it. And you can see it's not just, hey, because the Genentech people. It's because we jointly kind of moving so many projects. And I was there working with all those executives on, like review the project and thinking about the commercial strategy and everything. So I said, well, this is a golden opportunity because how good you don't run into that having this group of people. And then we also persuade two more executives. So we have everything. We have financial, research, clinical development, CMC, legal. So all those leaders during my Genentech time all left Genentech and say, hey, why not just join together? I know we got a name. Some people joke about Ultrabio is this Genentech mafia. I'm not going to be embarrassed to say, yeah. So this was the nucleus of the start of the company. So I say, okay, this was more or less already. I was in transit out of there, and I say, well, why don't I do this one? Because this one has this whole good nature about both the science and also this group of people. It was
You got the band back together.
yeah. The downside is that now I have to say the capital is horrible. Right? Is it did not have the needed money to start with, but I'll pause that here. But basically, that's how this whole start about. Okay, let's do this as my first CEO gig, and you have to keep in mind also 2020 in the beginning when I took on this role, biotech was in this glorious bubble. Right? Everything will be like, oh, you just have something, you go IPO and those things.
Yeah.
Not like I have an IPO dream, but more about, oh, it's not going to be so hard. So that's okay. It doesn't have money. Oh, that's okay. We can raise money. And but yeah, it was not the case for this
Yeah.
company, definitely. Yeah.
Very interesting origin. And I love how it comes kind of like full circle back to the kind of the Genentech, kind of like colleagues and experience that you had. And now that you guys have pushed off, can you talk a little bit about Ultrabio's mission and focus and maybe the way that you guys are disrupting the status quo?
Yeah, thank you for highlight that because definitely this is the mechanism very unique. I think we're still one and only to my knowledge. So I don't know if anybody in the stealth mode doing something. So our research team is the first one discover PSGL1 as a new target for immunological diseases. And then throughout a lot of research and things, they even put out the first generation molecule already in clinical validated. It works for psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, ulcerative colitis, so in IBD space, as well as GVHD. So, but the problem is all of the clinical trials say not really kind of in the past about going to this approval role, but more about like a research question. Right? So you're just trying to ask a question out of the clinical trial. So it's probably not something you can immediately put into clinical. And also in 2020, when I started this company, the first generation molecule is in weekly IV dosage form. Again, now we chat about this. My heart is with the patient. And when we when we aim to treat such a difficult treat patient, it is a torture for patient need to go into the clinic every week, do the infusion. Yes, many other drugs still go in, taking Humira. That's totally that. But I feel 20 years later, I can no longer feel I can have my face straight to say that's okay. So painfully have to kind of make the decision about almost like you have the path to kind of go to phase 3. And you have to make a decision about some unknown. Like we can develop another generation molecule based on the same science and then yet better, right? So it would need to be subcutaneous, very convenient for patients. And particularly now, we are working on ulcerative colitis. For anyone not familiar with the disease and IBD, both Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, patients' life is very miserable. So we're talking about even to recruit to our trial, most of the patients will have the stool frequency is like 20 times a day. That's just 24 hours a day. And we're not talking about you just go to the bathroom. We're talking about diarrhea for 20 times a day. And this is not even pretty about, it's the blood coming along with that, it's the pain coming along with that. Imagine that life, you need to go to the clinic for once a week to do infusion. It's just unthinkable about that it's a feasible drug. So most of the product nowadays start going to the subcutaneous, and oral drug is still a pipe dream. And so I think we cannot just brag about we have the novel mechanism without solving that problem. So like you say, you asked me the vision about ultrabio. So definitely we take the patient-centric, right? So seriously to the degree. And that's probably doesn't surprise you after we chat for so long. And so I don't want to be here just to collecting money or things like that, and then just say, oh, I have one more, check the box. Anything I do got to be meaningful, really putting the science, innovation, and help patient together. So we took this very painful decision about after Series A, but fortunately also because our Series A, we oversubscribed. We're starting to design the second generation while we're trying to wrap up the GVHD study for the first generation. So aspiration is in really leverage this novel mechanism and then to make a difference. And what's the special niche to the other part of your question? The PSGL1 mechanism turns out to be PSGL1 is one of those immune checkpoint regulators. So like other immune checkpoint regulators, the job is supposed to be like this brake of the car. So before your car is driving, no matter how you push the brake, it doesn't do anything. But the job is when the car is running like crazy, then you are, too fast. It doesn't need to be crazy yet. Then you have to push the brake to kind of slow down this immune system. When the brake is not working, the immune system just keep going. And that's how this whole autoimmune, the severity as I described, it's there. So the role of be able to help the brake to work is important. So this idea is in everybody's mind. And nowadays, even some companies are working on PD-1 the other way around. Because for oncologists, the other thing, you're trying to lift the brake, make it not working, so then you can go suppress the cancer. Okay, let's not confuse ourselves on that, to put that aside. But many other companies think, well, if PD-1 works so well in oncology, we kind of turn. So I think that's very admirable. So I'm not going to make any comment about that. Doesn't make sense. But for us, it's then our research team, I'll give them credit. Before immune checkpoint regulator even is a thing, like there's no such a term, they discover PSGO1. And I have to say, since 2022, we starting looking to this research more. We start sorted out in the past 3 years. Hey, PSGO1 actually is an immune checkpoint regulator. What we are helping is this whole immune checkpoint function. So we are truly this whole immune checkpoint agonist function, trying to just help PSGO1 does its job. So because of that, we are treating the very problematic chronically activated T cells. So compared to modern medicine today let's just zoom into UC for the ulcerative colitis. No surprise, like anti-TNF is an anti-cytokine. It's there. The job of those drugs are putting out the fires, the burning fire. So right, so you suppress the cytokine, hey, good. But the downside, as I say, I know what anti-TNF couldn't do. Because it's just so much so, if you don't remove the source of the fire will come back. So sadly to say, for most of the patient, when for anti-TNF work for them, particularly a severe patient, within 2 years or maybe beyond 2 years, they just have to cycle through different kind of drug. You take one fire extinguisher, change it to another fire extinguisher without treating the source of the fire. So the unique part about our mechanism, we are fundamentally remove or downregulate those T cell. So we really downregulate, bring it back to the homeostasis. That's ultimately, I really do believe in for immunology, whoever can find that secret about to bring back the immune balance, that's the key. It's very different from oncology. Oncology, because the problem is severe enough, you just want to suppress. But immunology is too much or too little, you really need to kind of adjust to that middle balance. It's not so much about, I don't believe those suppressing cytokine drug, it's still helpful, but it's not going to profoundly make that huge difference. So that's why we have this special angle coming in. I can be here, brag about, yeah, because of that, we already have clinical data, as I say, showing first gen, and soon we'll have data on our second gen to demonstrate that. But unique part also, we're creating much more patient-friendly, and then like to so-called break the ceiling about that remission rate. So this is the last piece I'll definitely say. So for UC, for example, nowadays, for the best drug, we're still talking about 30% for all comers. So all the severe to the less severe patient. Imagine that, like your beloved one, right? Go to see a doctor, and then the doctor can at best just say, hey, try this one. It may work for you. So that 30% means 10 patients, only 3 of them, after 1 or 2 years treatment, realize this drug doesn't work for you. That's sad. That's not acceptable, right? So we really want to do is then to be able to introduce a drug to say, to let the doctor be able to tell our loved one about, hey, this patient or your loved one will have higher than 50% chance this drug will work for him or her. So that's our ambition. So we are putting a lot of effort trying to understand the science better, identify the right patient population. That's another approach. Definitely, we take it very, very seriously. Everybody say that, but but we take it a whole 9 yards about to really dig into the approach to achieve that. So this is maybe a long answer to your question, but that's overall what UltraBio want to achieve.
That's very awesome. And also it reminds me of your medical school experience. Like, right, it's like this is insufficient. This is
Yeah,
this is not how it should be. Like this is if this is the standard of care, it is not okay. And
exactly.
I
Yeah.
love that like
No,
it
I think you
comes
say that
back.
very well. Now you know that, right? Because this is what not every single of my team member I got to share this story to this degree. Maybe after your podcast is out, they got to listen to this. It's a lot of time when we are talking about strategy. I even say, this is echo your point, I say, this is crazy. This has made me feel very uncomfortable. This has made me down all the way back about that helpless feeling. I said, I don't like that. I don't like we just having one of the medicine and like the time in the old day, hey, do the chemo, hey, do the radiation, hey, try bone marrow transplantation. I'm so proud about the whole oncology field. So this is one of the most fulfilling things for my life, right? Because then today, the oncology treatment changed totally different from the textbook I read back to my medical school time. That I feel proud. I think like all those the terminal condition has been changed to become treatable. Immunology need to move to that degree. Cannot be 20 years ago, I was so proud about Humira, and today I'm still brag about that. That is wrong. It doesn't really truly profoundly benefit the patient. We need to work harder for that too.
Yeah. Absolutely. And as you're building UltraBio, is it kind of similar? You might have mentioned it. Is it kind of like the Medivation kind of like leaner style, or is it kind of like everything in-house Pfizer style?
You got it, right? So when I have such a good experience in Medivation, so I think if David Hunt is listening to this, he will laugh about this. I'm copying him. So yeah. I do think that's a successful thing because at the end really was very beneficial for patient because of speed and then also for employees. It's when we sold it to Pfizer, I don't need to say more, right? I say just in 3 months, the value of the company from 9 billion to 14.3. People say, well, it must be very sad that you guys want to build a company. Yeah, indeed. It's still sad, emotional, but seriously, it was. But I think nobody complained.
Yeah. I think they're okay. I think they're doing okay.
Yeah, they're doing okay. Quite okay. Yeah. So I feel like then it got to be somebody dare to step in such a startup setting like my company, need to have that level of the reward at the end, right? So we built a link. But maybe I'll just elaborate a little bit more so not confuse any audience. So definitely in our San Francisco office, so no surprise, we have our headquarters in downtown San Francisco, like a Medivation. And then we build everything like top heavy. So meaning like our board, right? Know everything, how to do the biotech, and our leadership team is very experienced drug developer, but we don't overbuild the team and we try to leverage CRO, CDMO and working on that. However, I do care about the fundamental thing about that novel science, right? You got to have that space very, very strong. Particularly we are having this whole groundbreaking technology and we got to know very well. So the other investor conference, I think the analyst asked me about, are you still like, look like you're going to have a big news coming out of phase 2. So I'm curious about, so this is his question. He said, I'm curious about, you have such a novel target. This probably will be helpful for the investor to know. So are you still doing some preclinical work? I think he meant for me to say probably doesn't matter or the clinical result will prove I'm right or something. But my answer is that I told him, well, great innovation comes great responsibility. So there's no doubt we have to be very good at the whole translational research. And this is business driven, it's not just a vision. And I'll tell you, so that's why this March 2025, we launched our translational lab in Taipei, Taiwan. Maybe a little bit no surprise about where I came from, and I know the talents are there. It's not a well-known biotech hub for many people outside of Taiwan, but I do think the talent can be leveraged. So we have our lab 100% focused on translational research, not just because of fulfill this whole vision about science need to be solid, but it's a business. Because the more we understand this, we own the space even more. So I cannot share a lot of strategy we have on building in our kitchen in a very efficient way. So to completely answer your question, why I have this lean operation leadership team, but also we do have this little lab, almost also a little bit like a Medivation. We build this mission-based lab and still address the key question, debottleneck the issue. And for UltraBio, then that is this translational research. So that's how our footprint, we set up the company to build our competitive strengths, not just being experienced drug developer. And I'll give a lot of my peers credit. Now they left pharma. Many of them, it's like the leader you and I chat about, they actually do know many things, not just they know certain piece. And so I think that's good. UltraBio also has that. And then at the same time, we need to have some competitive strengths about certain core technology we know very well, and we can master and build pipeline out of it.
Very cool. Very cool. And I love that. I think it's like every experience is accretive and it's like builds and it builds and it builds on top of each other. And it seems like this is like certainly like feels like a culmination of like all the kind of like acquired experiences and learning that you've had. And you mentioned earlier that funding has been, you just like you kind of started in 2020 and we're kind of like now in 2025, very different times. Like what's kind of how's your funding, like, philosophy on fundraising and, maybe any tips for anyone out there?
Sure. No, I do think very happy to share this. I got invited to many different forums to maybe using that backward. We finished our Series B last year, 2024 in May. We raised up to 225 million. I was told we are still the record holding about the biggest Series B. I mean, you will heard about people do the A and C that size, but not B, because B is like this Death Valley, right? So you need a lot of money in the clinical, but you don't have that proof of concept or efficacy. So very happy and very proud about my team. We achieved that. So that's where everybody's starting to ask me about the question about that. And I do think if I were not just moving away, but just answer that question, I do think the credit goes to we not shy about to answer the big question. I can tell you when we decided to work on UC back to 2021, 2022, I always joke about we discuss internally 100 times. Well, probably that's true. Because this is a big decision about the little UltraBio want to compete with big pharma. I think we are probably the one of the so up to this moment today, not many standalone biotech companies doing UC because most of them all got acquired by big pharma. So we're competing with big pharma in this indication. It's a tough decision, but I do think this novel mechanism got to apply to where the medical need, as you and I talk about, so I'm not going to be redundant. So that's one thing. I think you also say that sentence, right? Good things also always come back. So little did we know when we make that decision, along the way, always got questioned. And many investors walk away from us to say, you're not going to make it. I don't want to waste my money on this. But right before we close our Series B, so end of 2023, there are many big deals done in UC. So I think we're just right on that wave about, hey, people just look around, this is what's others,
They're
right?
like, oh,
And
crap.
then,
Yeah.
they will be like, we need to grab this one. So I do think we got lucky because of that, because then we are on this hot topic. And then this I would definitely justify for my team. It's not just myself, right? Because then people say, oh, you got lucky because you must know you do UC, you can raise money. The strategy was set up 3 years ago before we close that. And then we stick to it, right? So we stick. So I think this is what people use the word about being like resilience. I like the word grit more because that's where you kind of already see what you don't have, right? And you stick to that. So it's not just like persistent on the same old thing, but it's like we're moving along, trying to adjust the strategy. That's one. But second, also, again, I'll give my team the credit about we deliver. Because the term sheet we get was from an investor back then when say, well, if you can show me your not existing second molecule, right? Because when we close our Series A, this is a pipe dream about how we're going to have this higher potent molecule and then go into clinical and then sub-Q. Like if you can show that to me, and then with phase 2 IND clear, I'll believe you. And then I will write you a term sheet. To the credit about this investor, That's I call them the day, not just we clear IND, but we inject our first patient, so first patient in, and say, hey, remember you say that many years ago, and then I want to call you to tell you this good news. We just have the first patient in on phase 2. And to this investor credit, right? Some investors say, second terms change, but this investor definitely just say, okay, expect a term sheet from us. So that's how we get things going. And I think that was just, 3 years was quick, right? So the execution, as we're talking about the lean structure, we managing to really using very little money and create something big. So this is probably the Series B. Series A, then I'm kind of going backwards to just complete the question. So UltraBio start, as I say, was first maybe not me, but I think many people have a naive thought about the raising money is not a big deal. So then we were really broke. And I say I took on this role in 2020, October 2020. So we built a company, registered a company in June 2020. In 4 months, the board's topic is about, okay, this is it. So October, maybe next board meeting. We're in this crisis mode already. So monthly board meeting. And the board saying, well, just come back to show us the bankruptcy plan, right? So basically, you have to managing the bankruptcy good enough. So then, but one of the board member at that time, for no good reason, maybe just being polite and say, because this is all my former Genentech executives. So basically, and the person just asked me about, what do you think, Judy? And I don't know what's wrong with me, but I basically just say, me? Oh, I will ask you guys to give me 30 days without thinking about bankruptcy. And after 30 days, if I have no update, then let's talk about bankruptcy. Can I just don't even worry about bankruptcy? Just give me 30 extra days to do fundraising. So magically, that 30 days turned this company around.
Amazing.
I run into, I was, I didn't, the investors, Amon. So unfortunately, the partner left the firm already. But I got the instinct a little bit about right before that board meeting. He and I chat, and I know already we're going nowhere. And it's not like being introduced about be interesting company or whatever. I need to ask him probably, but he just interested to get to know me. Then we chat a little bit. I just feel like, well, I should continue have some dialogue, having a little bit of time with him. So I give him quite a bit of credit, because then I turn around immediately, just tell him about, hey, I only have 30 days, and if you're interested in whatever you need, right? And they did. I have to tell you, people may say, well, Amon did a rush decision. No, Amon has this notorious reputation about, if people hire 3 different firms to do due diligence, they do 3 times 3. So then in a sense, about every single firm is allowed to ask you every single question, and then we have to kind of very quickly. So basically, he challenged me about, if you guys can put together everything quickly, and there's a case to build to the investment committee, then we can try. So that dramatic story about then, I think I got my term sheet right in that end of the 30 days, or a draft concept. Maybe it's not term sheet, but it's more about proposal. And I bring to my board to say, hey, let's take it seriously. And then Amon liked us so much, and basically say, we just want to have 30 million to finish the first generation, get further proof of concept. And you have to also understand, this is everything's in COVID, extremely difficult. And the enrollment of patients almost going nowhere, particularly GVHD, right? Because most of GVHD patients shouldn't even go to hospital, because that's very dangerous. They would die by COVID. And so was very, very hard, but we managing to pull this together, and then attract also Blackstone, BVF joined us, and oversubscribe with that little extra money, because they did ask me about, if we give you 50 million, what do you want to do? And this probably doesn't surprise you, because I already have this second gen in my mind. And I immediately just write a proposal about, this is how second gen is going to look like, and then we're going to do this, follow the timeline. So we end up raising 63 million, also way more than we went out to raise. if I have anything to share with anybody nowadays raising money, I do think when we get into with that great history, but the capital market for biotech crash since just April 2021 never really quite come back yet after today. It was hard in our Series B. So I think probably what I shared a moment ago about the execution and stick to your vision, that's probably the most important thing. I think then it will come. That would be my particular suggestion about for anybody still struggling on this raising money stage.
Wow, what a kind of the turnaround is incredible. Like, yeah, what a turnaround. Like that's like, you just kind of got the crash course. It's like
It is,
that was a proper
yeah.
crash course. And as you're looking 1 year, 2 years out for Ultrabio, what's in store for you guys?
Yeah, so we are up to this very competitive UC. Pretty exciting about data is coming next year. And we are not publicly talking about data yet. And so this will be groundbreaking about totally different approach and maybe a little bit breaking the ceiling result and unique mechanism. The other thing very, very different from most of the UC drug is then we already know it worked for dermatology, rheumatology, because the first gen, all those hard work pays out for, liver disease and many other things. So we cannot wait to move this use to the UC trial to get to the, launch this product. A second thing also to open up the pipeline in product concept, right? So we'll be able to look at other indications and many other approach, the precision medicine, combo therapy. I mean, a lot of things we can further broaden that. Now we chat about this from the very beginning about Humira, then you can see this is probably not unusual, right? Because Humira humbly start from projecting 500 million,
Yeah.
was thinking about rheumatoid arthritis. The success about 20 billion is because it's applicability to many drugs, many disease. So that's Ultrabio's goal, because I think immunology got to be like that. And many patients suffering compounding disease. So it's not just UC and they have maybe the arthritis issue and many, many other issues. So if one mechanism can address many questions, that's where it should be. So I see for 2-3 years, we like to be able to launch this drug with or without partnership. That is, I mean, I go with whatever will be accelerate the launch of the product. I say that I meant it. I don't mean necessarily then to lend it to a big pharma is good. I've been to too many big pharma. I wouldn't say that necessarily is faster. So we'll evaluate that to see if we do it, it's faster, we'll do it. And if partnering it out or licensing out make more sense, we'll do it too. Because I think at this stage of my career, I want to see this get to the patient fast. And particularly now in the clinical trial, we know how many patients' life we have changed. And cannot wait we can get to that point. Yeah, that's probably when you ask me 2-3 years, I think that's the goal. It's a pretty exciting and also tough
Very
years
exciting.
to come.
Yeah, very exciting. I'm pumped for you. This is super sweet. Like to be quite honest, like I think what a like honestly, just like coming out from Bayer and like basically going to this and creating basically you're running the company. You have really run the gamut of experiences. Like again, you're just like have really like across the spectrum too. Like it's like it's not all good, it's not all bad. You've like highs, you had the lows. It's like truly like you know I'm rooting for you guys like from
Thank you.
like yeah, I'm rooting for you guys for
Thank you.
success like in the coming years. And again, Judy, you've been so generous with your time and all your insights, and thank you for being willing to share all these personal experiences. So thank you. And in traditional closing fashion for the podcast, I have two questions.
Okay.
One is, would you like to give any shout outs to anyone who has supported you along the way? I know you've given some already, so we're not choosing favorites here, but
No, I do. I do think it's many, many people can be named, and I don't want to drag on this question. Name, I think most of them are already named throughout the course we chat. But I want to go back to my Yale time. The first year of my graduate school time, I do think, so I'm a mother myself, and that wasn't what I planned in the graduate school time to give birth to my first child. It was hard. And I have to say at that time, I was ready to give up. Given all the things I talk about, I feel like being a mother is so important, and I don't have people help me. Financially, I cannot support that. And traditionally also that makes sense. I'm the one to give up and everything. So I think one person or maybe two people I will say I didn't mention. One is Professor Martha Constantine Patton. She's like a sharpest professor in the biology field and neuroscience also. And then I feel like almost like I'm a failure in some sense, right? Because she's so successful and everything. And then when she heard about I talk about to quit, this is after I got my 5 honors and got all the fellowship and all those things, right? And then I still was not convinced because I think the reality pushed me back. She called me to her office, and then something she said really made me where I am, right? Because she told me about how many women at the really focus on the career and the end really regret not having this luxury of being a mother and having a family. And he said, you have something that's precious, so don't give up. But then even more, she said, this sounds a little bit just like nothing, but she said, hey, Judy, you are good. You understand? You are good. This whole world needs you. Don't look down on that. This is not small. You are going to make a huge difference to the world, and you just give up now. This is nonsense. And I have to tell you, maybe the silly me about, please bear with me. First year in grade school, foreign student, and this is all even with all those scholarship. Maybe I'm just good at study or whatever. And I have this professor who is like super sharp, and everybody's scared talking to her. I walk out of her office like, yes, I'm good. Yes, I'm good. I can make it. So she gave me this whole push. I really was that. And I don't know how I'm going to solve this problem about taking care of the baby, deal with my study and everything. But I was like, but keeping my mouth, I said, you're good. So that's sticking me like really, I toughed through my grade school. But definitely another thing I say, maybe just not just her, but also Martha later on married Bob Horwitz, so who actually won the Nobel Prize in 2002 for apoptosis. And this couple make a huge difference too. Bob really encouraged me when I talk about my home alone life, about by myself. And he, of course, visit Yale very frequent because at that time, Martha was still at Yale. Later on, they both, so Martha moved to MIT, joined him to be in MIT professors. And he would always visit me in my this dungeon or whatever the temporary card, and then chat about my research and brainstorm about this. He always, and recently we reconnect and we talk about this, but he said I gave him too much credit. It really always a huge difference because he did not have the Nobel Prize yet, but I consider him like somewhere like really highly respect. He's just maybe this prodigy in biology, right? Maybe that Albert Einstein in biology, figured out so many things out of the C. elegans and published all this paper way ahead of anybody else. So no doubt he got this Nobel Prize that everybody respect, and he's still in the neuroscience. He moved on to that area. But every time he chatted with me, he treated me just like another Nobel laureate talking to him. And that gave me all this confidence. I really think this couple make a huge difference to my career about later on my academic life, even in the industry. I actually have people really my luxury about following me, like a different company I work, and they just move with me. And then I remember one of the member, at some point people asked him about, why do you follow Judy alone? And then this person's answer was, even though just one person, but I feel like, oh, that's such an honor. He said, I trust her scientific instinct. It's never actually went wrong yet. So I want to follow her just for that. And I do think that level of confidence of myself, and really have to thinking about start humble, consider I'm nobody, and someone sees through me, give me that that level of confidence, I would give that as an extra shout out. Definitely many people supporting me become where I am today, but I'll give that extra credit about that's like this rudimental, right? Like the where you start with and build that level of confidence.
That's amazing. And like for someone to do that for you or two people to do that for you is such a gift, like an
Yes.
absolute gift. I, you know, I couldn't imagine how, how down in the dumps you felt, and just for someone to bring you back up and put you back on your feet is again just
Yeah,
like so
exactly.
that's what it is what it sounds like. And the last question I have for you is like if you can give any advice to your 21-year-old self, what would it be?
Uh, so maybe after we chat about this, I personally don't like that question.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
and I will say why. Because I feel looking back, if there's anything, almost not, maybe that's not your intention, but I feel like almost the question implied I could have done better. Right? And I won't I I wouldn't describe my life as perfect,
Yeah.
but I feel like every up and down, I learned so much. Right? So I worry about if I go back to my 20
And change
year,
it. Yeah.
yeah,
Then you don't actually
that's not
learn.
good.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
an interesting answer. I haven't gone that one before, to be quite honest. It's just like actually you just have to go through it.
I think so.
You have to
So
go
if
through it.
if I yeah, seriously, I know it sounds so arrogant the way I answer. Someone
Oh,
said,
I
"Oh,
don't
I
know if
have
that
a
was
perfect
arrogant. It's
life, and why do I want to change?"
no, no,
But I
it
feel like,
felt
yeah,
orthogonal.
yeah, seriously, because I feel if I miss this, if I would have, like did not have to be home alone to get my PhD, did not, I wouldn't be this, right? If I would, yeah, I don't need to elaborate. But if I were answer your question the other way around, if this a 21-year-old, and that did happen now to my luxury, people want to follow me, right? So they would be like, hey, give me some tips about, because I just want to be you. And that was very honorable. And like this Judy Chou club has been going around. And seriously, it was kind of a little bit scary. They were studying. Sometimes they say certain question. I was like, wow, how did you even know that? But if anybody, 21-year-old, say want to be me, and if there's anything I want to say, I think it's a little bit like Carrie, what you say a moment ago. I would say find your passion and stick to it, right? This is very profound. Don't define your path. Because my career is a good golden example about maybe I'm not like swinging around, but I think something consistent is this passion, right? And I ask my question every single position I went through, is this agree with my passion? And I particularly name this out, maybe that's how I'm old, but in my days, people change jobs so often, considered bad, just really bad. So I think up to maybe my which position, I would say maybe motivation or something. One of the questions still like how come you change your job so often, right? And nowadays become how come you're still in this company so long, right? So it's totally different. And so am I going to brag about I know it? Time will change if people appreciate. No, I didn't. But I think the past I decide not to be defined by others or the existing, but more about just stick to your passion. And I think then at the end, you will kind of come to somewhere and you have a story you feel good about and proud about. I'm not done yet. I'm not going to say, yeah, I mean, given all those look at both, product, how many are driven, and then also the patients, the employees, financial and everything. I don't want to be here brag about this. I'm not done. But I think if anybody want to get to a certain degree, being a big pharma executive, being a CEO, being some role you really dream about, I would say don't just define your path. Like I got to get this, then I get that. And I think many questions you ask me, I will have to answer by like, oh, I didn't know this. I didn't know that. So that's my clarification about why I would not answer that question, but I'll answer the question the other way around.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that's okay.
And I think, it rings true. It's like everyone's just figuring it out. That's really just like you're just figuring it out. There's no there and there, as if anyone tells you there's a preset path, they're probably lying to you. Like,
And also, because I think it's fair to say to me and my parents, right? So that generation is a time. My parents will tell me something And more or less, when I get to the job market, it will be this kind of job. But I think I'm very, very happy about today for the younger generation. You are going to be something, there's no such a job your parents had. So I think that's good. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So what good about your parent told you, or anybody told you about, you've got to be this, right? In my days, maybe I'll end this sharing a joke. My parents are professors. So in their widest dream, if I don't become a professor, at least being an MD, being a medical doctor. And for years, I'm in the industry. And I clearly remember when I took a Bayer's job and I call home, say, hey, guess what? I'm going to be a biotech head of Bayer Pharmaceutical. This was pretty advanced of my career already, right? And guess what my mom say? And she's like, oh, another this. I mean, when are you going to really get a real job? And then, like, you have to understand you are not young anymore. And you've been fooling around all those years, right? And for all those, whatever that company worked for, and we never can figure out what's that. And then, can you just be a medical doctor and go back to your professor and do one of them, and rather than do this, right? It was frustrated both for her and for me to hear that. So I think I was like, okay, I'm going nowhere. That's fine. So I was trying to end that conversation in a positive way. Say, okay, just one more thing to tell you. I'm going to move to Switzerland because my headquarters is in Switzerland, just so you know. Other than that, we should just wrap this discussion because you're not excited about this. She's like trying to cheer me up. She's like, oh, that. So Judy, just remember to buy yourself a nice Swiss watch. So she cares about.
That's so funny. That's so
I
funny.
told my employee after I'm being at Bayer, everybody laughed nonstop about, did your mom know? I'm like, that's okay. That's okay.
It's okay.
So
we
the
won't.
point is, the point is, right? So you don't need to have people define your. By now, I have to give my parent credit. So I don't want them to listen to this podcast, got disappointed. That's how I create this evil image. And so they definitely now starting to see the beauty and those things, the impact, and walking around in the hospital or their doctors, right? They will be like, oh, is that your daughter? And I think they're starting to realize that impact, which may be, and again, I say my parents are pretty traditional, but still they have this very open-minded. They were like, oh, I'm glad you actually did that. So the point I want to say is definitely, I mean, this is, I think today, the modern days even, it's even better. There's an even new position, and that can really create something we did not know. Or to us and to our children, they will have something even more creative and make a huge impact to the world. So that's good.
Absolutely. And honestly, I don't know a better place to round things out. This has been so much fun, Judy. Thank you again. Very, very generous with your time. I know you're super busy, so thank you for setting aside time with me. Knowing that you guys are based in San Francisco, we should grab coffee. I'm right there. So, thanks again. And, hopefully the next time I see you. The next time I'll be able to see you is in person. And again, thank you again for all the insights, all of your experiences and your personal stories, and showing us like what motivates you. It's been illuminating, and I want to thank you again.
Thank you so much. It's nice chatting with you too.
Thanks for listening to our 4-part series featuring Judy Chou. From Taiwan to Yale, Harvard, pioneering high-throughput screening, building Genentech's Oceanside department, leading global biotech at Bayer, and now developing first-in-class immune checkpoint agonists at Altru Bio, Dr. Chou's story shows how following your passion can lead to breakthrough innovation that changes patients' lives. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend. Join us for our next series, featuring Caleb Appleton, partner at Bison Ventures, an early-stage venture capital firm investing at the intersection of biology and computation. Before joining Bison Ventures, Caleb served as principal at Innovation Endeavors, focusing on frontier technology investments across synthetic biology and AI-driven drug discovery. and brings operating experience from TuneIn, where he led product and growth initiatives. With a background in biomedical engineering and a track record of identifying transformative companies at the earliest stages, Caleb's insights into how computation and artificial intelligence are reshaping drug discovery, combined with his hands-on understanding of scaling breakthrough science, make this a conversation you won't want to miss. The Biotech Startups podcast is produced by Exceeder. Don't want to miss an episode? Search for the Biotech Startups podcast wherever you get your podcasts and click subscribe. Exceeder provides research labs with equipment leases on founder-friendly terms to support paths to exceptional outcomes. To learn more, visit our website www.exceeder.com. On behalf of the team here at Exceeder, thanks for listening. The Biotech Startups podcast provides general insights into the life science sector through the experiences of its guests. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from the podcast is at the user's own risk. The views expressed by the participants are their own and are not the views of Exceeder or sponsors. No reference to any product, service, or company in the podcast is an endorsement by Exceeder or its guests.